Broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by theunshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wills.
Hello everyone and welcome to this weekly edition of WilmsFront on this Wednesday, the 10th of March, 2021. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube and DLive channels, as well as on the YouTube and DLive enhanced entropy software, which I've put the link into the live chat, so where you can ask questions throughout the show, or even better yet, send through super chat donations to support the production of the show. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria. It's just going to be a solo WilmsFront show tonight, featuring just myself, no other guest. I haven't done a solo show in so long, definitely not in 2021, so I thought it was about time to just do one on my own. Well, to begin with, what an extraordinary past couple of days it has been. It feels like, based on our current trends, our nation's intensive care units may be overwhelmed with sick politicians. On Tuesday morning, news broke that Victorian Premier Dan Andrews had suffered, first it was said, a concerning fall. Then later in the morning, Deputy Premier James Markle said it was a nasty fall. And then later in the day, Dan Andrews, or his social media team, put out a message that he had slipped on wet stairs and had broken his ribs and fractured his vertebrae. And so he originally, he was at this is what we've been told, he was at a rental property on the Mornington Peninsula. So this occurred at not his private residence or holiday home. There's been a lot of speculation that he and his family have moved into a $5 million property in Brighton. They're just rumors on social media, but it just goes to show that politics does pay, and especially being a Labor politician, he's certainly in tune with the working class if he's just moved into a $5 million home in Brighton. Maybe Karen from Brighton, who he criticised, can show him all of Brighton, or better yet, Daniel Andrews. He'll be close in proximity to the member for Broadmeadows there, Frank Maguire, who also owns a property in Brighton. So yes, the story is that at this rental property on the Mornington Peninsula, while getting ready for work to go to a press conference in Hillsville, which James Markle ended up fronting. It's quite a trek from, for those who aren't familiar with the geography of Melbourne, down on the Mornington Peninsula, which is near where I live. It's just south of Frankston. So that's in the far south of Melbourne. And Hillsville is in the top northeast corner. It's so far away, so he would have had to get up very early in the morning, travel a long way in the peak hour traffic to get from Mornington to Hillsville. That's quite a trek. But yeah, as we know, he didn't get there, slipped and fell down the stairs. He was rushed to the Peninsula private hospital in Langwarrin for x-rays, but after they realized the extent of his injuries, he was transferred to the trauma ward over at the Alfred Hospital. He said that he would be in intensive care for a few days, but it now looks, it's broken today, that his injuries are so severe that he might require surgery, and he could enter a period of several weeks, if not months, of rehabilitation. He's going to be certainly off our TV screens for quite a while. Now, what Dan Andrews was travelling to Hillsville for, and this is why Deputy Premier James Markle said that Dan would have been crushed not to be here. Certainly, his ribs were crushed because it was a huge woke announcement that he was planning to unveil. This was it. He was launching Victoria's Truth and Justice process, and so the statement reads: today has been owed for 233 years of violence, dispossession, and deprivation, 230 years of deliberate silence. So obviously referring to the so-called invasion of Australia, aka when Australia was settled, beginning with the First Fleet by Governor Arthur Phillip, arrived January 26, 1788. So the statement reads: today we commit to telling the truth. The irony of the Victorian government dedicated to telling the truth. We do so for the kids who never came home and those who are still finding their way back. For those who are told that they were not allowed to speak their own language, practice their own culture, know their own identity. For the families who lost loved ones in the massacres, we should say alleged historical massacres. And for those who are made to feel like they didn't belong to their own country. And for those who still feel this way. Today, we'll commit to telling the truth. We do so in partnership, a shared commitment between the Victorian government and the First Peoples Assembly of Victoria, the state's first and only democratically elected body for Aboriginal people. Did you know that the state of Victoria had a First Nations assembly, which obviously is exclusively, you can only vote and get elected to it if you have Aboriginal blood ancestry in you there. So you could call it a racist parliament. Named after the Wemby Wamba word for truth, the Uranuk Justice Commission will formally begin its work in the coming months. Held independently from government and afforded the full power of a royal commission, it will mark the beginning of a conversation long overdue and a commitment to change. Now, it has the full power of a royal commission, which Dan didn't call into his government's hotel quarantine failure. That was a board of inquiry which did not have the power to compel witnesses or subpoena documents. This standing royal commission will. So it's worth pointing out the fact that he'll call have a standing royal commission into a woke issue, but not to the hotel quarantine failures, which led to 800 Victorians dying with COVID during Victoria's second wave last year. And going on here, it will compel us to confront what's come before, to acknowledge that the pain in our past lives on in our present, and to recognize that without truth, without justice, there can be no treaty. Again, the irony of the Dan Andrews government talking about truth and justice, because 233 years on, Aboriginal Victorians continue to experience outcomes far worse than non-Aboriginal Victorians. It's why the UROC Justice Commission will investigate both historical and ongoing injustices committed against Aboriginal Victorians across all areas of social, political, cultural, and economic life. With the establishment of this commission, Victoria will be the first and only jurisdiction in our nation to institute a formal truth-telling forum. We make this point not out of pride, but with purpose. Of course, it's not about virtue signaling at all. As a state, as a nation, we must do better. That means not only hearing Aboriginal voices, but actually listening to them and taking meaningful action in order to achieve real and lasting change. Victoria's Truth-Telling Commission will be led by experts, and held in partnership with the community. Obviously, only certain segments of the community, but its work will be for all of us. Because only by reconciling with our past can we reach for a fairer, more just future for all Victorians. So yes, Dan, he obviously would have loved to have been able to be there in person to announce this policy here, but sadly for him, he was rushed to hospital, and now, as we know, is in the trauma unit at the Alfred, and It's speculated that he might have to undergo surgery. I don't know whether it's happening or not, but I'm sure we'll get an update then. Now, obviously, social media, particularly the chatter amongst the anti-lockdown pro-freedom activists, has been going into overdrive, speculating that we're not being told the truth. I know that the XYZ, they speculated that it could have been an assassination attempt. There's also been other rumors circulating tonight that it happened at a rental property of the Lindsay Fox family, which it's been revealed that Daniel Andrews and Lindsay Fox are quite close friends, and that maybe Dan Andrews will take a job with Lynn Fox post politics. Again, that's a rumor. So, but yes, as there's certainly, well, since there's such a strange and clumsy accident to slip on wet stairs. How can stairs get wet unless they're basically floorboard steps? And yeah, just fall down spectacularly. So yes, it's one of the most incredibly clumsy political carnages that we've seen. And I noticed that Anthony Kaloof of Australians versus the Agenda, he's been having quite a lot of fun with Dan's fall. To give you a bit of background on Anthony Kaloof, who was arrested and charged with incitement in the lead up to the September 5, 2020 Freedom Day protests. So that is his case is still unfolding before the Melbourne Magistrates Court, as are the other Victorians who were charged with incitement, such as Zoe Bueller, Fanos Peniides, James Bartolo, and I've left a few others out. But there was this theory going around, which Anthony Kaloof shared. Tomorrow, the Australian government correctly tears up Daniel Andrews' Victorian Belt and Road Agreement with the murderous fascist Chinese Communist Party. Coincidence that Dan Andrews is on medical leave while this happening. So I don't know what that sort of meant to imply, that he's faking the injury to get out of having the Belt and Road program torn up, or is it supposed to imply that it was the Chinese that pushed Dan Andrews? I don't know. I myself don't read too much into that. And Anthony Kaloof, he's also had a go at what you'd call poorly labelled satire, and so he published this statement from the Premier on his Australians versus Gender Facebook page. Early this morning, I was admitted to hospital after slipping and falling on wet and slippery stairs. A CT scan revealed broken ribs, but did not find a heart or a soul. Subsequent medical advice is I remain in intensive care for the next few days. And as you know, I always listen to the best health advice. I'm lucky to have somehow gotten a bed in ICU. Given we are in a pandemic and under a state of emergency, I look forward to meeting all the COVID patients in ICU while I'm here, but so far I haven't seen any. In fact, I couldn't even find any COVID patients in the rest of the entire hospital. It seems they must be all somewhere else. Surely we are not under a state of emergency with 0 patients and 0 deaths for a total of 5 months. I did find about $1 billion worth of ventilators we never needed, though. I did see a lot of dancing TikTok nurses that really cheered me up. There are rumors that I am here for having had an adverse reaction to the jab. And let me be clear, I'm not stupid enough to actually undergo experimental gene editing myself. I just want you to justify 24/7 biometric surveillance of every Victorian, or the ones that survive it, that is. Well, here I have just undergone an anal swab to test for COVID. There didn't seem to be a process in place for it, but Brett Sutton offered to do it for me with his finger. I said, Brett, surely you can isolate it from the shit that comes out of my mouth. We both laughed. I remain isolated until the results come back. I'm not sure if I have to, but Kath and the kids are embarrassed of me enough as it is. So we ask that for the time you respect our family privacy. In the meantime, some other idiot you've never heard of will step in as acting premier, but don't worry, he will just be my Muppet and do everything I say. So there you go. And obviously the other rumor about Dan's trip to the hospital caused by a trip down the stairs, that he took one of the vaccine, one of the two vaccines we have offer in Australia for preventing COVID, Pfizer or AstraZeneca. But if Dan was going to take the vaccine, there's no doubt that he would brag profusely about it, do it for the cameras. It would be a big media show. I mean, here is Gladys Berejiklian today getting her COVID shot for the cameras here. But there was also another senior Australian politician who had the COVID jab in front of the cameras, and that was Federal Health Minister Greg Hunt on Sunday. It was announced that on Tuesday evening, just as Trad Tasman Talk was airing, that he had been rushed to hospital, diagnosed with a bacterial infection, and it's been confirmed in the morning here that his diagnosis was a cellulitis, a bacterial infection in his leg. The minister is improving and will be discharged in the coming days and expects to be back at work next week. There's doubts whether he will recover in time. But if you go down further here, his admission to hospital sparked concern the public relations campaign could be undermined. But Mr. Mornington told reporters on Wednesday he was certain it was not linked to the vaccine. Certain? That a politician saying they're certain of something, that certainly, using the term myself, doesn't always pan out. That's the medical advice I've been provided. He'll be fine by next week. He'll be back up on his feet. Minister Hunt and I have worked hand in glove over the past year. And I notice a few people made the point, well, he got the jab in the arm and the cellulitis is in his leg. But this has also been shared around social media here that one of the side effects or reactions that is being documented to the AstraZeneca COVID vaccine is cellulitis. And yeah, he's on antibiotics and a drip, Greg Hunt, but it's still a illness that requires acute attention because it's something that people used to die of in the 1920s. So yes, obviously, I don't know how he knew that he had this bacterial infection, whether his leg all of a sudden became really dodgy and he just suddenly collapsed. I'm just going to play for you now the video mashup that the Real Ruckshan put up on his social media documenting Greg Hunt getting the vaccine and the news Tuesday evening.
A Labor ex-PM, a Liberal health minister, together to give vaccine confidence a shot in the arm.
They'll listen to you. More than they will to me. Yeah.
Julia Gillard had the AstraZeneca jab today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alongside her one-time rival, Greg Hunt.
Beautiful.
And a lucky sock-wearing Brendan Murphy, the head of the vaccine task force.
Forward-facing, the vaccine.
As we come back to you, we have breaking news. Federal Health Minister Greg Hunt is in hospital tonight with a suspected infection. He's been given antibiotics and fluids and will remain there overnight. His staff say he's expected to make a full recovery, and clarifying his condition is not related to the COVID-19 vaccine he received just days ago.
Now, as you saw, Julia Gillard, former Labor Prime Minister and Secretary of the Federal Health Department, former Chief Medical Officer, Brendan Murphy, took the vaccine there. As far as we know, that they're fine as well. And I showed you Gladys Berejiklian getting her COVID shot today. She was asked before, what do you say to anti-vaxxers who are using Greg Hunt's sudden illness to cast doubt on the vaccine? And she said, well, I'm having it today. I'm not deterred. If I was worried, then I wouldn't have it. She, along with her State Health Minister, Brad Hazzard, and the Chief Health Officer of New South Wales, Dr. Kerry Chant, they all had it for the cameras. So we'll watch over the next few days whether they have any side effects. But yes, as I was saying, that Australian politicians, they seem to be overwhelming our hospitals at the moment, because we have a Federal Defence Minister, Linda Reynolds. She has taken another 3 weeks medical leave due to a heart condition that she has. This has coincided with her being under intense scrutiny over the Brittany Higgins rape allegation. Her medical leave was extended for another 3 weeks after it was leaked that in her private office in front of her staff, she called Brittany Higgins her claim that she didn't receive enough support from the Morrison government or herself. She referred to Brittany Higgins' claim in that regard, called her a lying cow. We have to make the distinction that she was not calling Brittany Higgins a lying cow with regard to the rape allegation itself, but Brittany Higgins' claim that she didn't receive appropriate support. And we also have Christian Porter, the federal Attorney General, Minister for Industrial Relations, and leader of the House. He's on mental health leave after his press conference last Wednesday to emphatically deny the historical rape allegation that has been levied against him. That as a 17-year-old, he raped a fellow national debating championship contestant, this woman named Kate, who was 16 at the time, who tragically took her own life last year. There was a follow-up Four Corners episode on Monday evening with Louise Milligan, which if that show was meant to, I would say, strengthen the case against Christian Porter, it didn't, because it was revealed that this lady, Kate, met Christian Porter when she visited Perth for a historians conference in 1994, 6 years later. And if you'd suffered this brutal rape as a teenager, why would you volunteer to meet your alleged rapist 6 years later if it was such a traumatic experience for you? So that's three federal cabinet ministers who are on medical leave at the moment, and in the Victorian cabinet, there's now two who are on the sick bench because Police and Emergency Services Minister and COVID Quarantine Minister Lisa Neville is on 3 months leave after her Crohn's disease, which she's been suffering for 30 years, deteriorating significantly at the beginning of this year. So she's down as well. So yes, obviously, somebody quite aptly put, being a politician is not good for your health. And I'm not sure if this registered on people's radar, but for pretty much all of 2020, we didn't have our then Immigration and Citizenship Minister, Peter Coleman, at the helm. He'd taken a year's leave for mental health reasons. He's coming back as Assistant Minister for Suicide Prevention. Alan Tudge was the acting Immigration and Citizenship Minister for most of 2020, and Alex Hawke is the new permanent Immigration and Citizenship Minister. Now, despite the fall of Dan Andrews, the decline of the state of Victoria continues. Because it was announced today that another major power station is going to be closing in Victoria at Yallaran, which is in the Latrobe Valley. So this is a decision by Energy Australia. So they told their staff on Wednesday today that they will shut down the power station in mid-2028, despite being licensed to run the Latrobe Valley plant up until 2032. The brown coal-fired plant produces a fifth of the state's electricity and employs more than 500 people in the Latrobe Valley east of Melbourne. It's in the central Gippsland area of Melbourne. Energy Australia said the decision was made due to the world's rapid move to renewables and to help the company realise its plan to be carbon neutral by 2050. The company is working with the Victorian government to make the transition as smooth as possible, committing to a $10 million support package for workers. In Australian Managing Director Catherine Tanner said, given the transition was in its infancy, a set plan would be determined by the needs of the workforce. And we've already had back in, it was in the end of 2016, to the best of my knowledge, that the Hazelwood power station, another large power station in the Latrobe Valley, was decommissioned. So now, this is terrible news for the economic condition and well-being of the people of the Latrobe Valley. Obviously, being the centre of Victoria's energy infrastructure, was thriving for many years. So that it's a tragedy for that area, and obviously a tragedy for Victorians, which, contrary to what we're being told at the moment and what we were being told in 2016 when Hazelwood closed, electricity prices will go up. So obviously, dark times in terms of, well, not knowing when if the lights are going to be on are ahead for the state of Victoria. And well, I shared with you at the beginning of the show the other significant announcement of the Andrews government this week, that they would be having a standing royal commission on historical Aboriginal injustice. So yes, don't worry, the woke cultural Marxist agenda of Victoria, whether Dan Andrews is the Premier or not, will continue. Now, going back to Gladys Berejiklian again, because obviously the centre-right conservative media say that she's the gold standard in COVID control, keeping the state open while suppressing the virus. But it's also worth making the note that Gladys Berejiklian, she's the most keen on having digital vaccination records, and she's specifically said that she wants the Service New South Wales phone app, which is mandatory for all check-ins for contact tracing purposes throughout the state. There's no third-party QR codes or anything. You have to use the Service New South Wales app. That she wants digital vaccination records stored in the Service New South Wales app, and that venues can choose to discriminate against those who are unvaccinated. And if they exclude those who are unvaccinated, then they can get less restrictions on their business. So although Gladys has kept the state of New South Wales open, she's keeping everyone's where they've been in a central government database. It's supposedly destroyed after 30 days, but it's all there in a central government database there. Now, obviously, the other big story of, you'd say, big as in it's shaken up the whole world, is, I'm not going to call him Prince Harry anymore. I'm calling him Harry Mountbatten Windsor, and his wife Meghan Markle. Their sit-down interview with Oprah Winfrey, which aired Monday Australian time. And for most people, what Meghan Markle accused the British royal family of doing, the grenades that she threw during that interview exceeded most people's wildest expectations. And of course, she played the race card as much as she could during that interview. It's like she had a whole 52 pack of race cards with her and was just putting them out there through the interview. And then, of course, there's the allegation that comments were made about Archie's potential skin color, which they're not racist by nature. Perhaps, well, maybe, obviously, Prince Philip is noted for some of his foot and mouth. Maybe he just said awkwardly, "Oh, I wonder how dark Archie may be," because Prince Philip is known for he's been accused of racism, but he's 99 years old. He says things which the modern millennial mind thinks is quite terrible and offensive. He's reported to have asked Aboriginal Australians, the ones who do those welcoming ceremonies. He is alleged to have asked them, "Do you still throw spears?" And there was another incident where he was visiting an NHS hospital and asked the nurse where she was from, and she said the Philippines. And he was like, "Oh yes, I see a lot of you nurses from that place around here." Again, like these are not racist by themselves, but just, we'd say, awkward, old fuddy-duddy stuff that he says. So maybe she didn't say who said it, but maybe that was just Prince Philip making an awkward remark. It's not racist. Now, the British public are firmly on the side of the British royal family. They want Prince Harry, and again, well, he's still technically a prince, but formally stripped of their royal titles. But the American press, where they're obsessed with race, they're on Meghan's side. And was it Don Lemon on CNN said, "Oh, this story of racial discrimination is so relatable." And again, it's important to make the point that unless you were told Meghan Markle was half black, you probably wouldn't think it. It's only because we're told that she's half black that it actually registers on people. We saw that one of the first casualties of the fallout of the Harry, Meghan, Oprah interview was, funnily enough, Piers Morgan. Is currently a co-host on Good Morning Britain. He walked off the set after, I think, the show's royal reporter gave him a serve. He's never liked Meghan Markle, so he's quit the show. It's a mutual departure between him and Good Morning Britain and the network that produces the show, ITV. But Piers Morgan has done so many other things during the course of that show that have deserved him being, or you'd say, reprimanded or fired. So obviously, the fact that he's a COVID hypocrite. He was decrying Brits going away for holidays when he went to the Caribbean himself for a holiday. He praised his son for going to a BLM rally during COVID restrictions back in June. And of course, don't forget, he's a climate warrior as well. He had that infamous blow up with Craig Kelly, the Australian Liberal MP, when Craig Kelly went on to talk about the Australian bushfires there. But Piers Morgan, in other areas, he's been bang on the money, such as laughing at Hugh Grant's campaign against Brexit and the press. Piers Morgan was a Remainer, but he always said that the Brexit vote should be respected. And also, Piers Morgan has no time for non-binary, gender-bending madness as well. So, but again, Piers Morgan leaving or getting fired or pushed out for that, I think you should have got, as I said, there's other annoying, hypocritical things that he's done that were worthy of his departure there. But obviously, as I said, Meghan Markle, she threw as many grenades as she could. She disparagingly referred to the royal family as the firm, and then she talked about how she wanted to kill herself. And again, this is like the people sympathizing with her. She's one of the most privileged people on the planet, and the identity politics left, the feminists, the race baiters. Why are you putting her up as the one of the most oppressed people? I mean, why are they always going on about that? They're not picking up actual cases of working class racial and gender discrimination. It reminds me of the time when all the feminists were outraged because Jennifer Lawrence, she got paid less than her male co-stars in the film American Hustle. And I remember Ricky Gervais in one of his Golden Globe roasts said to Jennifer Lawrence, it was a massive outrage about your pay inequality. Nurses and teachers were marching in the streets for your right to earn $25 million for a film. So yes, and of course the other hypocrite, virtue signaler is President Joe Biden, who he had started his presidency in making more coherent speeches than he was known for during the campaign, when he was doing most of his press appearances from his basement studio. But now his condition is deteriorating again. He was speaking about the COVID relief bills, which it's not the $2,000 stimulus checks that the American people were promised. It's now $1,400. This is Joe Biden attempting to explain the COVID relief bill.
The vast majority of economists, left, right, and center, from Wall Street to the private economic polling initiatives. The economists, as I said, left, right, and center, say, in addition to the needs the people have, we need this to grow the economy. That if we haven't spent this money and recreated the kind of incentive for people to be able to make a good living, that we'd be in real trouble.
And on International Women's Day, when he was announcing the promotion of two female generals, forgot his defense secretary's name.
So I want to thank you both, and I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there. I want to make sure we thank the secretary for all he's done to try to implement what we've just talked about, and for recommending these two women for promotion. Thank you all. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
You've been listening to President Biden marking international.
So he just said the secretary there, the guy that runs the department, as he referred to the in 2020, the Declaration of Independence. The thing, and you saw Kamala Harris there, masked by his side. She's beginning to, you would say, assert her, you wouldn't say authority, but influence, or step up when Joe, as those two, as I commented on Twitter, he clearly didn't have his booster shots before those press conferences there, or they're just not as effective as they used to be. I noticed that Scott Morrison on his social media talked about, he posted about that he had a phone call with Vice President Kamala Harris, and it's not something that Australian prime ministers have really bragged about, having phone calls with vice presidents. I don't think, for example, Joe Biden would post about having a conversation with the deputy prime minister, Michael McCormack. And so it certainly seems that Kamala Harris is preparing herself for a succession, which, well, if Joe Biden, if he continues to deteriorate as we saw just in those clips there, then he's going to be incapacitated in not too long. And we know that, remember that Speaker Nancy Pelosi, during the end of the last Congress, talked about a 25th Amendment committee for Congress that would help see whether the president could discharge their duty. A lot of people thought at the time that it was about removing Trump if he got re-elected, but no, it was more about making sure that they could remove Joe Biden if they felt that he was incapacitated there. So that's what's been happening over in the States. Of course, another promise that Joe Biden, the Democrats, reneged on was the $15 minimum wage. And of course, it seems that they talked about the stimulus relief checks being reduced. They needed those extra $600 from every American for those rainbow bombs over Syria. And it hasn't been really reported on in Australia, but if you turn on Fox, there is a new crisis happening at the southern border, because obviously Joe Biden has halted construction of the border wall. He wants a pathway to citizenship for all dreamers. So what do you think happens when you put the honey back on the table? The illegal immigrants attempt to cross the border, and a lot of them are unaccompanied minors, which means that there's more kids in cages now. And that definitely reminds me of when the Rudd Labor government in 2008 dismantled John Howard's Pacific Solution border protection policies. And what happened? The boats returned, and it was even during Julia Gillard's prime ministership, came to one a day. So it's not surprising that there's this new wave of illegal migrants coming through Central and Latin America. And obviously, when it comes to illegal migrants coming in, the left's fear about them bringing COVID with them just evaporates. And again, this is always the selective application of the fear of COVID. If people are coming that you like, then they're not at threat of bringing COVID. Any event you like is COVID safe, and any event you don't like is a super spreader event. That's the logic of these things. Now, there is a upcoming state election this Saturday, 13th of March, 2021. It's the WA state election with Labor Premier Mark McGowan. He is easily going to be re-elected. The only thing that's to be decided on Saturday night, whether it's a complete wipeout for the WA Liberal Party, and Mark McGowan and his Labor Party have absolute power over both chambers of the WA Parliament. Zach Kirkup, the 33-year-old recently elevated leader of the WA Liberal Party, he's put forward one of the worst, well, you'd say liberal conservative campaigns that you can imagine, which is obviously signature policy, the have the state carbon neutral by 2030. And I can't believe that because he got the job because Lisa Harvey, who was the then Liberal leader, she was quite experienced, a minister in the Barnett government. I believe she was even Deputy Premier of WA. She resigned because of low poll numbers. So whoever came next, their job was basically to save the furniture, and they've elected this, you'd have to call him naive kid, as this opposition leader. And based on his performance, the whole furniture is going to be taken away after Saturday night. I mean, they could even be left with no seats in the Victorian Legislative Assembly, because the last news poll had WA Labor 68% and the WA Liberal Party 32. There's no Liberal National coalition in WA. The National Party does have seats in the WA Legislative Assembly. In fact, the WA National Party, they could end up being the official opposition after Saturday night. Obviously, Mark McGowan, his hard border policy and his COVID control measures have made him insanely popular, with his popularity averaging around 90%. In terms of toughness on COVID and punishing those who break public health orders, he's the only premier who's jailed people. But in terms of his public image, he doesn't come across as much of an asshole as Daniel Andrews does during his press conference. Mark McGowan comes across as you would say almost like an American president with the way that he speaks. There's no mean streak that comes across Mark McGowan, even though he has implemented these draconian policies. And don't forget the 5-day lockdown over one case that escaped from hotel quarantine, which they found no other cases, despite it being the British super strain. And then for 9 days after that, he made Western Australians wear masks outdoors. And of course, he keeps alternating now. He relaxed the hard border towards the end of 2020, but he puts it up again at a moment's notice. And he even floated the idea of having permanent border controls on the WA state border to keep out methamphetamine, though he realized about a couple of days later that might not be constitutional, even though he got a very generous decision by the High Court of Australia during Clive Palmer's border closure challenge, because Clive Palmer, the mining magnate, was denied a travel exemption in 2020 to travel into Western Australia. So he took the Western Australian government to the High Court and lost. This is despite Section 92 of the Australian Constitution, which says that trade, commerce, and intercourse between the states shouldn't be restricted there. So our current High Court has shown quite a you would say loose interpretation of Section 92, basically saying, well, you can close it in these sort of circumstances, created a massive precedent for border closures to continue even post this pandemic as well. I don't think the Australian Federation is ever going to be the same. And now there was an extra twist in the final days leading up to the WA state election, with a 67-year-old man arrested after throwing a suspicious package into Mark McGowan's electorate office. So he's been arrested in Rockingham, which is a suburb of Perth, and he was taken to Rockingham Hospital for assessment. Mr. McGowan, who was at the ABC studios in East Perth at the time, told the broadcaster an item wrapped in aluminium foil was thrown under the window at the front of the office at the staff. People act a bit strangely, so you've just got to be careful. So the office and surrounding buildings were cordoned off while staff sat outside on chairs as fire crews, police, and officers from the Chem Centre's hazmat team assessed the scene. Paramedics also stood by, and a staff member who complained of a sore throat after the incident was taken to hospital as a precaution. Also on Tuesday, 9 News reported the Premier was the subject of a death threat at Hillary's on Monday, with a man at an early voting centre saying he had a gun and would shoot Mr. McGowan. Meanwhile, a border of Mr. McGowan was defaced, with the vandal dubbing a Hitler-like moustache on his top lip and a communist sickle symbol nearby. That's quite common during election campaigns for MPs, cornflakes to be vandalised and Hitler moustaches drawn on. The Premier went from his studios to his electorate office and spoke with authorities and the media. We don't actually know what's in the package, but because of some concern what was in it, the staff member being treated by ambulance office. So but it was found to be a non-toxic substance. It was wrapped in aluminium there. Both McGowan and Zach Kirkup have said this is an unfortunate incident. This is not going to play into the election. Zach Kirkup said any attempted violence or threats towards the Premier, his office, or political candidate is abhorrent. And Mark McGowan said that he doesn't attribute any sort of political motive or blame any political rhetoric for that, which is quite a mature response. So it's now, because WA is 3 hours behind, the polls, when they close at 6 p.m. WA time, it'll be 9 p.m. Here in Victoria when the polls close. So it'll be a late night seeing the votes come in and see just how incredible this results is going to be. Zach Kirkup, he actually was on the front of the West Australian a week ago confessing, I'm not going to win, which, well, everyone knew, but it was always a question of, well, do you admit that, or do you just fight? Do you fight even though you're knowing you're going to lose? Because certainly when Kevin Rudd in 2013 was certainly going to lose to Tony Abbott in the federal election, he certainly didn't say, yeah, I'm going to lose. Zach Kirkup seems to be, his pitch has now been, well, help us save the furniture. Don't give McGowan and Labor absolute power. Vote for us as some sort of insurance policy, like we're a minor party, which, well, they might be after Saturday's election results. And then obviously the discussion will turn to federal implications, because Scott Morrison has been under well, I shouldn't say scrutiny. You'd been under the most sustained media campaign, particularly with these rape allegations. His government is under sustained attack from the media and all those leftists and feminist activists on social media. And with another Labor Premier re-elected, because in 2020 we saw the Labor ACT Chief Minister Andrew Barr comfortably re-elected, the NT Chief Minister Michael Gunner comfortably re-elected. We saw Anastasia Palaszczuk, Labor Queensland Premier, despite her cruel border policy, was convincingly re-elected, and now McGowan's going to be re-elected. And Scott Morrison in 2029, you've noticed that he isn't even bothering to advocate for open state borders or an end to lockdowns. He's basically said whatever the states decide will support, because he's seen the ACT, NT, Queensland, and, well, the coming Western Australian result, and he doesn't want to be on the losing side of those politically popular issues there. And of course, we have the federal budget coming up in May, and then there is also at the end of March, the end of Job Keeper, and also the end of the expanded Job Seeker. It'll go back to New Start, the unemployment benefit, with $50 extra a fortnight. That was announced a couple of weeks back there. So there's been a lot of speculation about whether Morrison would go early, go for an early election, I should say, in the second half of 2021. But with the vaccine rollout still very much in its early phases, and with Greg Hunt now having this suspected adverse reaction, even though we're told it's not an adverse reaction, Scott Morrison would be better to wait until the vaccine is rolled out to everyone who wants it, and also when it appears that the Australian economy is beginning to bounce back on its own 2 feet without subsidies, and also when international travel begins to resume as well. So he won't go. Well, he won't go to an election unless he can win there. But certainly, I think he was definitely spooked by all these state and territory Labor governments getting re-elected. It's your last chance if you want to. I'm going to be wrapping up the show soon. Whether you want to send a question or super chat through Entropy, I've put it there in the description there. So obviously, as I said, this is only my second Unshackled production show for the week. Tread Tasman Talk was last night, but Brawl in the Brain wasn't on Monday due to myself and Jared Searby both being sick with, we said non-COVID related illnesses, but I should also say non-vaccination related side effects. Neither myself and Jared have taken the vaccine in secret and are having side effects now. That's sort of going to be the new thing now. It's gone from I'm sick but I don't have COVID, I'm sick but don't worry, it's not a side effect from the vaccine as well. But I'll be back on board with Thirsty Thursday with the Dusty Bogan on the Unshackled YouTube channel, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time, 7:30 p.m. Queensland time on the Unshackled's YouTube channel. And myself and Jared will be back a night earlier this week. We'll be coming back since we missed last Monday. We'll be coming back on Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Victorian time on the Unshackled YouTube channel and also on the Judge Searby YouTube channel as well. I do have an event planned, a live event planned for WA election night. It won't be a WilmsFront election night live stream, but I will be on the air that evening, but I'm not going to reveal what that event is going to be. But it's certainly going to be reflecting on, we would say, a significant event in Unshackled Productions history. There, we'll reflect and have a laugh and just enjoy a Saturday evening, which I haven't done live for quite a while. So I hope you can join me then, and I'll keep you up to date on what that event is on my social media, the Unshackled and WilmsFront Telegram, Gab, Minds, MeWe, as I mentioned, the Startup and Odyssey YouTube channel, and I also hope to start a Rumble channel as well. BitChute, I know I've uploaded a lot to BitChute, but that site is failing badly, which is a shame because so many good people are on it now. That's all from me tonight. I hope that you enjoyed this solo show. WilmsFront will be back this time next Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time on the WilmsFront YouTube and DLive channel. Until then, stay well and stay safe and stay free, as myself and others keep saying these days. Good night, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com or Rational Rise TV to view the archive of episodes. And keep visiting theunshackled.net to view all our shows and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.